These next couple days are going to be so hard, Austin. I have an international trip that's going to determine the future of one of our businesses. I have 9 podcasts to edit. I have thumbnails to make, shorts to create, medium form content to schedule. I don't. People don't respond to my messages.
Yeah, but hey. You know what it sounds like right now that you're doing? It kind of sounds like you're complaining a little bit, which is rare because that's something I never hear you do. And it also sounds like you're trying to explain to me why your complaints are valid. But I think personally, you should never do both of those things. As a mature adult, as a grown man, for most of you watching, you have to understand that most people really don't care about your complaints. And most people really don't care when you explain them. Because after a certain point, it's going in one ear and out the other because people have their own shit going on. So if you're sitting here complaining, my life this, my life that, blah, 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 and explaining to me why your complaints are so much more valid than everyone else's, nobody's going to want to hear that shit and nobody's going to want to be around you. So, like a man should, you got to take all those things that you deal with that are real things that you have to deal with. I'm not discounting those. But sometimes, actually all the time, just shut up and deal with it. Now, Jose, I think that you could provide a more candid explanation and insightful, monologue to this point, because you sent me this video about Robert Greene, who was saying the same thing. Shout out Robert Greene, and shout out him for providing us with this great podcast topic. So, Jose, what do you mean, or what does Robert Greene mean when he says, never complain and never explain?
So never complain, never explain is actually a quote from the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Benjamin Disraeli. And I saw it on a YouTube short, as Austin mentioned, which I shared with him as Robert Greene was repeating it and explaining what it truly meant. When you complain, you look weak. When you complain, your complaints fall on deaf ears. Nobody cares. Nobody cares truly about what you're going through and what your plan is and why you are where you are more than you will. As much as somebody might love you, it's in our nature to put ourselves first. So why would we waste energy and make ourselves look like fools when we can simply move forward and progress? It's very...
No, I was just going to say, that reminds me of a previous thing that we've talked about, is knowing when to give a fuck or when not to give a fuck. So after a certain point, you complaining and explaining why these things are valid is you giving too much of a fuck about these particular things and expecting someone else to do the same. Mm-hmm. However, like you said, people are naturally relatively selfish at the end of the day. So most people are not going to want to really be there to listen to your problems and try to help you with those problems. That's just not how most people are built. And it's not a bad thing, but that's just naturally how we are. At the end of the day, if, it was a choice between somebody saving themselves or saving me, and I don't know them like that, I'm not going to hold it against them for saving themselves as opposed to me. That's just how shit works. So when you're expecting someone else to care that much about you and what you have going on, is kind of nonsensical, because really nobody is going to give a fuck about what you're doing, especially entrepreneurial wise or just like business wise, except you or more than you, because at the end of the day, you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into something that they're not. So when you're telling them all the things that, are affecting you about this and whatnot, that other person can't relate whatsoever because they're not putting the same blood, sweat, and tears into it. So you complaining and you explaining to them sounds like a different language. you think that you're speaking English, but to them it sounds like you're speaking fucking Portuguese, because these problems don't even exist in the world that they're in. So one of the problems that we're, going to have to face is a international supply chain. That's one of the problems that we're going to have to figure out how to,
Well, we're already figuring it out.
Yes,
and
but
we're also already encountering many roadblocks.
Correct. So that's something that we're continuing to figure out. So at the end of the day, if we were trying to explain international supply chain to our sisters, they probably wouldn't give that much of a fuck, let alone understand how much of a headache this is, because it's not affecting them. That international supply chain doesn't exist in their world of their day-to-day work. So what's the point of even wasting the energy to explain it to them? Because you're looking for a potential solution, or you're trying to get it out and explain it to them, and like, man, believe me, this is just blah, 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 blah. It's basically bouncing that idea, bouncing those words off of a wall. It's not really going to return any value to you, because they don't understand what the fuck you got going on. So really, what's the point of even doing it? You might as well just sit there, think about it, really take some time and ruminate on how to fix this problem or deal with this problem, as opposed to complaining about it, because complaining doesn't lead you to anything useful. It doesn't lead you to any successful outcome. It mainly just makes you go in a circle like this. So what you should do instead of complaining and instead of explaining is to think. Force yourself to get creative and deal with the problem, because nobody else, as a grown-ass man, is going to want to deal with your problems at the end of the day more than you. If you were a woman out there, maybe somebody could probably come to your rescue. One of these simp guys that just loves to just help somebody out and help a woman out, not calling out women at all. But those
also
guys
might just be a pimp though who wants to help a woman.
That true. So
In a good way, not
yeah. So one of those guys might be wanting to do that. But for a guy, it's not going to help. Nobody's going to come and save you. Most people, what is it? Chris Rock said the only people that people really care about is like women and children, and dogs.
The only people that get unconditional love are women, children, and dogs.
There you go.
Men have to earn it.
Exactly. So if you're a guy, you're shit out of luck.
That's just how it is.
You just got to figure it the fuck out.
We still love you though.
Oh yeah, of course.
We love you.
Yeah.
Not everybody else loves you though.
Yeah, no.
Fuck them though. Yeah. But the interesting thing about that point that you just brought up is that I wanted to mention a caveat in never complain and never explain. There's an exception to this statement, and this exception applies when you are in the process of discovering a solution or seeking a solution. Because oftentimes when you are complaining about a problem, you begin to look at the small details and features. And when you're explaining the issue, you're formulating, your brain is structuring what's going on, what's the potential solution, how are things going, X, Y, Z. And that's actually why a lot of times you might be overthinking something, and then when you talk about it, boom, your brain frees up and you find a solution. So the same thing applies here. So I think you can complain and you can explain. However, you have to do it within reason in a select group with select individuals. You need to have a council to consult.
Right. And the main way I would say that you can know if you're complaining or consulting is if what you're saying is a statement or a question. If it's a question, man, how the fuck am I going to get out of this? I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. What can I do? What can I do? What ways can I, improve? What have you? Those are questions that spark thought and that spark intellectual conversations. They spark problems that you can have an answer to, or that you can find an answer to. But when you're complaining, if you're thinking to yourself or you're saying out loud, man, my life sucks. I hate this shit. I'm not going to be able to get out of this shit. Life for me is just terrible. Those are statements. So at that point, you're not questioning anything. You've already solidified it in your mind that that's what it is. So if you solidified it in your mind that that is your current state, whether it truly is or not, you believe it is. So are you going to think that that can change? Do you think that that sparks like some fire within you to want to change your situation? Probably not, because you've already established in your brain that that's your current situation. So to know whether you're complaining or not, again, think about what you're saying to yourself. Is it a question or is it a statement? If it's a statement about a shitty situation or something that you're going through, then you are just pigeonholing yourself. You're not getting yourself into a thoughtful mind state in order to progress, in order to change your circumstances. You're basically just, again, going in a circle and keeping yourself in that consistent rotation of negativity and fucking failure. So instead of just saying those negative things, start asking questions. When you're around someone and something is frustrating you and you trust in them to have a productive conversation or give you some advice, ask questions about your circumstances. Don't just say statements about your circumstances, because if you ask questions, questions normally lead to answers. The more you ponder on them and the more you try them out.
And I also think this is a good tactic for negotiation. Never complain and never explain. So we here in America have a policy that we do not negotiate with terrorists. And I think that this is a very good way to approach any situation in which you are negotiating with an individual who per se has the upper hand or who likes to use potentially threatening, whether verbally, literally, or physically, or emotional threats. The best thing you can possibly do is simply agree, not complain, and not explain your true intentions and the actions that you're truly going to carry out. An example would be if I tell Austin, hey, you're not allowed to run, you can only walk past a certain hour. Austin could choose to get aggressive, angry, start an entire argument and explain how that's so unfair and how it's unjust, and that's his complaining, and then his explanation is why it should be otherwise. But I don't care. I don't care. While as applying this concept, never complain, never explain, Austin would just say, okay, and then proceed to do something that of which he desires to do, which could be running at said hour or power walking at said hour, finding a loophole and not explaining the process by which he's going to overcome or diverge from the quote unquote circumstances, not circumstances. What am I looking for? Regulations, we'll say. Mandates. Good one.
So I find this interesting because that just reminded me of, there's a lot of people, if you're getting into a confrontation or you're about to get into a confrontation, there is a certain perception that one gets from someone who talks a lot before the confrontation, which you would say, they're talking so much and they say that they're going to do this or that they're going to do that. Maybe they'll do it. But there's a different type of perception, a more bone-chilling perception of someone who doesn't explain themselves, doesn't explain what they're going to do, doesn't complain about the situation. They just say, okay. So if I was to come up to you, if I was to come up to you and say, Jose, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you, you fucking suck, you can't fight, you're a pussy, blah, 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 all that type of shit.
I'd be like, go ahead.
That response is a lot more bone chilling because it's like, okay, he's not reverberating the same energy back to me that he's going to beat my ass. He's just saying, okay, go ahead. So to me, now I have to question.
What does he mean by that?
Yeah, whoa. Wait a sec. I just said all this shit to you and you're telling me go ahead? Are you crazy?
You're not afraid of me?
Yeah, you're not afraid of the shit that I just said. Are you delusional? So then it starts to make me wonder, okay, wait a second. Does this guy have something up his sleeve that I don't know about? Is he like a martial artist fucking expert? Does he have some type of weapon or something like that I don't know about? Because he's acting very calm about this. So when you try to complain and explain, especially in a confrontational manner or a negotiation type of manner, you come off looking as a novice, as someone who's not really about what you're talking about, because the more you know how to do something, in my opinion, the less you have to explain how to do it or explain to somebody with a whole bunch of fancy ass words how to do this shit.
You don't have to justify it. It's self-explanatory.
Exactly.
It's like a beautiful woman. She doesn't have to show off. She doesn't have to be loud. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have to dress in a revealing manner.
Right.
She walks in the room and you go, man, she's full of elegance, class, and beauty.
There you go.
Enough said.
And it's like, a man that we know, a great guy, but when people ask him, what does he do? He doesn't like to talk about it. And it's not that because he doesn't have the credentials to be in the spaces that he's in, because he very much so does.
Yes.
But he embodies it. He has those characteristics. He doesn't need to explain himself. He's built it up to where it basically exudes from him. So you don't have to explain yourself when you're that. The more you're trying to explain yourself, the more you're trying to talk your way into a girl's pants, the more she probably realizes that you're not like that.
You're full of shit.
You're full of shit. Because what are you doing all this talking for? It sounds like you're trying to talk your way and negotiate your way into a situation that you normally haven't been in. So the more you act reserved, or the more you have established that you've been there before, you don't have to do all the extra shit because you know how shit goes. You've been there before. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, it does work. It doesn't matter. So that is something that I've noticed that I feel like most people don't understand. They always think that they have to talk their way into some shit.
But you know why that is?
Why?
Lack of confidence.
Oh, for sure.
They don't have undeniable proof that they are who they say or who they think they are.
Exactly. So they try to talk it up.
Correct. And it's not just for the other person, it's also for themselves.
Yep.
They're trying to justify to themselves that, hey, I'm competent, I'm capable. Like when Alex Hormozy was talking about the video of the girl shouting her affirmations in the mirror that, oh my goodness, I'm a goddess, I'm so worthy, I'm so this. And he's like, well, first off, you're not a goddess because you don't control me.
Right.
And then second off, he's like, if you don't have it, you're not worthy of it.
Right, exactly.
It's simple as that.
If you were worthy of it, you'd have it.
Yeah. So if you think you're worthy of having that chicken, have her, bro. I'm sorry. Reality hurts. Yeah. Reality's true though. That's why it's called reality.
Right. If you think you're worthy of having those abs, or you're worthy of having that business or starting a business that, that you've been in for a while, you do it. So the more that you get into things, you realize that a person that we have been in business with, he's going to be manufacturing something for us. Would you say that he tried to slick talk you in any way?
No.
Why would he not have to slick talk you in any way?
Because his reputation precedes him.
Because he has manufactured this particular product for the best of the best. There's nothing that he really has to say or go out of his way to make sure that he gets across to you, because he's already built the reputation to where that damn near speaks for itself. And you notice that. And the more you talk to him and talk back, it was more of a conversation, not something where he's like, oh yeah, come over here and we'll do this for you. Come on, we'll give you this discount and this discount and blah, blah, blah. Hey, do you do this? You can come over here and do this with us. You don't have to work with them, blah, blah, blah. No, he's just saying, hey, I'd love for you to come down here and witness the process and see how things get done. We can do this. And we've worked with some distinguished people along the way. And this is something, if you're interested in, here's what the cost is for this minimum amount of order. And we have people that can help you along with this process, blah, 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 blah. He's not coming and just telling you a whole bunch of shit, saying more words than he has to. He's saying what he needs to because, again, his reputation speaks for itself. So if you find yourself talking too damn much and you find yourself saying, it seems like I'm complaining a lot and I'm trying to explain a lot. You must not have built up a lot. You must not have set a strong enough foundation within yourself. You must not have set a strong enough character within yourself in order to confidently do things without having to try to over-explain things or complain about things. And the real men who have built up foundations, who have built up companies, rarely say all the shit that you would have to say because they've already done the shit. So if you're trying to get to somewhere, realize that complaining is not going to get you anywhere. And most of the time, explaining shit to somebody is not going to get you anywhere, because if you're trying to explain something too much, you must not have a good enough product in general. Because if you have to explain it to them over and over again, how it works and what it has to do and blah, 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 it's probably not a good product that's clear and concise. It's probably confusing to them. So if you're trying to explain it, you have a shit product, or you have a shit service, or you're a shit salesman. So in that case, there's your problem. Stop complaining. Stop explaining, and nut up, and shut up.
It's a nice tie back. Where is that going to go with this?
So many different crazy, stupid ways, bro.
That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. Oh, yes. Say less than necessary. Always. That's what Robert Greene was talking about when he was referring to this statement as well. That the more you talk, the more you put your foot in your mouth.
Very true.
And you're better off just leading with action rather than leading with words. And so and it's the same thing with how people talk about, oh, this is wrong, or this government doesn't work, or this policy is terrible, or the economy's bad. Well, be the change. Oh, women suck. Okay, well, be the man who helps the women be how you want them to be.
Right.
Help take care of them. Help nurture them. Help culture them. If you think the next generation of children's fucked, then how about you have children and you raise them the right way?
Right.
How about you start hosting seminars? How about you have a platform in which you can talk and support these children? Because almost all behaviors are in a response to something, and you have to determine what the source of those faults are. So when you spend so much time talking, you lose all your bandwidth to banter. And you have a difficult time actually addressing the problem, like you mentioned earlier. And not only that, you're all talk. It's empty. There's no action and there's no true thought. It's easy to talk. It's easy to complain. It's very difficult to make a change, which is something very interesting I heard Ryan Holiday talking about the other day, where he was saying, as a leader, you only get the shitty decisions. All the fun decisions get made on the way up to you. And the only ones left are the shit decisions. And you have to take a nice scoop of shit, eat it, and turn it into something fucking beautiful. When you spend so much damn time complaining and explaining, you can't make decisions. And not only that, you're a shit leader, because your one and only job is to make the right calls when the times are tough. That's it. Because those decisions that you make is what's going to determine how your people are taken care of, your employees, and by extension and at large, everything and anything else that's associated with your business, company, people, what have you.
There you go. Couldn't have said it any better myself, man. On that note,
The AM Club Podcast.
signing out.
Mic check.
The AM Club Podcast.